The reading for our sermon this morning, most of you will be familiar with it. This is the parable of the prodigal son and his brother. Jesus said, "There was a man who had 2 sons. The younger of them said to his father, 'Father, give me the share of the property that will belong to me.' So he divided the property between them. A few days later, the younger son gathered all he had and traveled to a distant country, and there he squandered his property in dissolute living. When he had spent everything, a severe famine took place throughout that country, and he began to be in need. So he went and hired himself out to one of the citizens of that country, who sent him to his fields to feed the pigs. He would gladly have filled himself with the pods that the pigs were eating, and no one gave him anything. But when he came to himself, he said, 'How many of my father's hired hands have bread enough and to spare, but here I am dying of hunger? I will get up and go to my father, and I will say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Treat me like one of your hired hands.' So he set off and went to his father. But while he was still far off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion. He ran and put his arms around him and kissed him. Then the son said to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son.' But the father said to his servants, 'Quickly, bring out the robe, the best one, and put it on him, and put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. And get the fatted calf and kill it, and let us eat and celebrate. For this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found.' And they began to celebrate. Now his elder son was in the field. And when he came and approached the house, he heard music and dancing. He called one of the servants and asked what was going on. The servant replied, 'Your brother has come, and your father has killed the fatted calf, because he has got him back safe and sound.' And the elder son became angry and refused to go in. His father came out and began to plead with him. But he answered his father, 'Listen, for all these years I have worked for you like a person enslaved, and I have never disobeyed your command. Yet you have never given me even a young goat, so that I might celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours comes back, who has devoured your property with prostitutes, you kill the fatted calf for him.' And the father said to him, 'Son, you are always with me, and all that is mine is yours. But we had to celebrate and rejoice, because this brother of yours was dead and has come to life. He was lost and has been found.'" I want to talk about YouTube. YouTube may be the greatest and worst thing that the internet has delivered to us, right? Because it can consume a lot of time. People have figured out how to just put the right picture and the right headline that goes, "I got to see that." And at the same time, how many things can you see that you would never be able to see? I mean, you can't travel to all these foreign places and see all this kind of amazing stuff. Last night, a video came up, and it was one of those that starts with like, "Everything went badly, but then this happened." And you go like, "I got to see what happened." So it was the story of a basketball game. I think it was a high school basketball game. And on the one team, they had a what they call special needs individual. And they were trying so hard to have this one boy score a basket. So the team kept setting up plays to pass to him, but he wasn't very skilled. He understood what he was supposed to do, but every time he got the ball, he overthrew it, or he threw it out of bounds, or he just went to catch it and he missed it. And you could recognize that the whole auditorium, everybody who had come to watch the game, was really rooting for this one individual to get a basket. Now, the team was losing as a result of trying to accomplish this. And they were behind quite a bit. It was getting into the last few minutes of the game. I think they were behind by about 17 points. The ball went out of bounds. And one of the opposing team members, who was about to throw it in for the last few minutes of the game, he sent it, he threw it to the kid on the opposing team, who was the special needs kid. Everybody cheered, "Put it in the basket, put it in the basket." And the kid threw it in and actually went in. And I mean, the place erupted. It was insane. People were so happy. It kind of makes you wonder, right? Because what are we trying to accomplish? The need to win the game wasn't really the focus. I mean, the guy who threw it to the kid on the opposite team, it looked like they were going to win, so it wasn't like they threw the game. But I thought it was a kind of a beautiful thing, how much it matters to us to bring an experience like that to this kid. And there's another beautiful thing about special needs people. I mean, there's autistic people that, in a sense, you can't tell if they know what's going on. But this kid was like definitely present and trying. And he didn't have any shame about what had happened. He was just like elated, you know, and it kind of broke your heart. I was like, oh my God, that's so beautiful. And I really believe that that is one of the most inherently natural impulses of us as souls, is to want to bring forth good experiences for others, to want to make their lives better, to want to make their lives easier, to want to deliver an experience to them that is so meaningful to them, and to somehow be a participant in that. People often talk about, well, human nature is kind of greedy or selfish or negative, or, you know, I don't really believe that human nature is those things. I think that's a learned condition. I think human nature is really about serving our fellow brothers and sisters. We have to desire to get in touch with that part. When you see it, like you can see it on YouTube, it does warm your heart, and it makes you, well, it makes me feel inspired to keep going. Because there are many times when you are trying to help, and your help is not really that welcomed or received, or is criticized or mocked or ignored. Now, in the parable, I think most people, the traditional teaching is to focus on, well, look at this one young son. He demanded of the father, and we can say, well, the father may represent God. He says, give me that which is mine. I want to go off and do what I want with it. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous in a sense. It's like, my inheritance, I want it now. I don't want to wait until you pass away. And the father gives him. And you could think of that as, you're given the free will, the capacity to do what you want. You're given tremendous gifts. You can think, you can find opportunities, you can earn an income, you can, you know, whatever you want to do. There's a lot of freedom on this earth. Now, in one of the passages that Jesus speaks about, he talks about, I am the true vine and you are the branches. If you've ever cut a branch off a tree, you know that it doesn't wither immediately. In fact, it actually looks quite normal. But what happens is whatever resources that are in that branch eventually get sucked into the leaves, and then there's no more. There's no source. And so within a couple of days, you start to see, I mean, sometimes within a couple of hours, you can see the drying starting to show up, and then eventually the leaves begin to turn brown. And the teaching is that you need to be connected to the source. And this is what happens to this young son, is that he breaks connection to the source. He takes his cachet of energy and intelligence and his physical body, and he wants to go off and live a free life, only to wake up after a period of time and go, I've got nothing, because there was no connection to the source. So he comes back, and it's a big celebration, because God has that kind of love, whereas we might go, well, the kid should be punished for that. He comes back, we should make him suffer for a bit anyway, so he learns his lesson. But we don't have a God like that, luckily. We have a God that goes, as soon as you come back, we're going to have a party, we're going to celebrate. Many of us can relate to that. But what about this other brother? What about this brother who has been working hard for the Father, you could say is committed to a life of service, and comes back and goes, what's going on? There's a big commotion. And the commotion, when he realizes, like, oh, my brother who went off to carouse with prostitutes and live this decadent life has come home, and all of a sudden there's a huge party. Well, that's not right. That's not fair. I'm not even going to go in. I'm not going to participate. I want us to approach the gospel passage and recognize that these are internal parts of us. Because when you first find a path that is really about love, forget about God and forget about Jesus for a second, because we don't have to focus on those words. Our path is about love. And when we first stumble upon it, we may feel welcomed and loved. And as the song says, "Amazing grace that saved a wretch like me," we start to review our lives and we go, wow, I've been pretty rough on humanity. I've been pretty nasty at times. And it's amazing to feel welcomed and to feel loved. And then as we begin to reside and commit to living in this kingdom of love, we have certain tasks that we are assigned, right? If you want to work on behalf of love, you have to make a few changes. You have to refine certain aspects of the way that you've lived. This is what makes it really quite brutal, actually. Because maybe there's a concept that now that I have found the kingdom of love, the kingdom of God, everything is going to be easier for me. We sometimes forget that there are a lot of things that are easier. But we have a tendency to focus on what's really, really difficult. And I understand that because I've been through it. The hope that, well, finally things will get better. But you see, there's a tremendous battle inside between maintaining the ways that we've lived, because we could say that they've worked, put that in quotes, they have accomplished to get us to this place. And our pride may go like, it's not all bad. And we go, yeah, it's not all bad. But if you want to be somebody who is committed to knowing that inherent nature of wanting to assist other people, wanting to be somebody who's more focused on this special needs individual having a basket and having the greatest day of his life as opposed to me, 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 you have to learn how to do that. And that is not taught in the schools. What is taught in the schools is, well, success and find a partner. And what's not taught is the refining of how you think, the processing of how you feel, the true and deep understanding that everybody on this planet has special needs. Everybody has special needs on this planet. And God is the one who knows what every individual needs. And we are striving to be able to reach the point where we can have that communication, where the God self within us provides us the information of how I can interact in this situation. What does this person need? What should I not give this person because it's not healthy for them? What should I do when this person's attitude is in a direct affront to my dignity? Can I remember that they are special needs just as I am and maintain an attitude of forgiveness? Sometimes I have to have a boundary. Other times I have to confront the situation. And these are the lessons that we learn in the kingdom of love. What do I do in this situation? But it's very common that what happens to us is what happens to this older brother. He gets angry because he goes, this isn't fair. I am in the kingdom of love. I've dedicated my life to this. Why are you doing this for him? Why don't I get this? Special needs, right? This individual is still learning how to love and believes that because this person gets something, that's a statement about how God feels towards me. But I want to assure you that when you really get committed to the path, your path is going to be unique. The various ways that you have decided to cope with life are different than your wife, your children, your friends. So you have to go through various trials and tribulations that help you to learn the various lessons so you can be fully immersed in the kingdom of love. And some of them will be harder than the person sitting next to you today. And then a year from now, that person will be going through a trial. And hopefully you'll remember like, oh yes, I had my trial. And so there isn't any sense of I'm better or I'm further along or this is unfair. Who are we to say what's fair when you commit to the kingdom of love and God? So what I'd like you to do is, first of all, if you haven't decided to head back towards the kingdom, consider that you will be welcomed, and things will definitely get better. You'll be reconnecting to the source of love. And once you settle in and you begin to unpack and you begin to go, this is what I want to do. Now, I mean, in our version, we call it the Christian mystical path. But there's many different avenues. You don't have to do it this way. I particularly like this way because I think it's the most expedient. And I've talked about that before. The reason it's expedient is because of grace and forgiveness, so that the stuff that we have done that has caused harm to other people can be forgiven simply by acknowledging Jesus. Other paths are more karmic-centric, and that's okay too. But when somebody explained to me that you can circumvent karma through forgiveness, I was like, that sounds a lot more expedient, and I like that. So that's the avenue that we teach here. When you decide that you want to do this, you want to come into your authentic nature. First of all, the earth and the planet are not going to celebrate because you're going to create difficulty for people to a certain degree. You're going to create difficulty for the part of you that doesn't want to be your true authentic self, because it will go, we're going to be taken advantage of. We're going to be humiliated. This is not good for my ego because I'm not going to come off very good. Well, then you have to go, who am I living for? Am I living so that I come off good to other people? You know, we call that selling your soul to a certain degree, so that other people may admire me. But when you commit to the path of love and you go, okay, it is kind of challenging. And some days you go, man, all I do is work. And there seems to be everybody's special needs come ahead of mine. Well, you have to take time for your special needs too. You have to meditate, you have to do things that are fun, you have to create boundaries around yourself for people that will just, you know, suck the life out of you. That is a reality. We're not just going to walk down the street and give all our money to the homeless guy that we see. That's not the path. Okay? The path is learning how to love and being committed to it when it's hard. You could say that's one of the things. And here's an example. You know, I used to read the passage and go, I wonder why he never got a goat with his friends. I mean, that wasn't exactly my first prayer to God. Could I get a goat for my friends? But I understand it was a different time, and maybe, you know, slicing up a goat and having some goat meat would be a big thing. But as I read it today, I bet that that's not true. I bet that when he says to his father, I never even got a goat to hang out with my friends, I bet he did get things. But in that moment, he wants his case to be solid. He goes, I don't get this, and I never got that, and it's never going to be this way for me. And that's a part of us, right? That's a part of us that when we forget the graces that have got us to this place, we tend to want to make a very solid argument as to why this is not fair. So recognize it. It's part of the journey. It's part of the journey at times to feel like, man, all I do is give, and I get nothing. And some days it does feel that way. So you got to go and have a nice, good night's sleep, and you got to, you know, maybe take a little break and have a good meditation in the morning and go, am I really on board with this or not? And you don't have to be. You don't have to be on board with the kingdom of love. I think it's a better life. And for me, when it became reality and I really settled into it, yeah, there are times when I was weary and I would, as I shared with you, I did my pros and cons list. Do I want to stay on this path or not? But ultimately, I no longer have that nagging suspicion like, is this what I'm supposed to be doing? What am I doing? Does my life have any meaning? I see a lot of meaning, and I'm very grateful for that. And also, Jesus talks about the kingdom of heaven that awaits. And so, many of you also know that I used to be a professional gambler. And so, I take that bet. I'm gonna bet on that one. I can't say for sure what's going to happen, but enough has happened to replicate what I've heard in the Gospels to go, my intuition tells me that you put your time in on here on earth. You help those with special needs. You as a special needs individual gets help. Yes, you sacrifice the opportunity to express your anger in a certain way or your selfishness a certain way. Or you decide, no, I'm not going to do those things, even though I have the right to as a human being. I could do that if I wanted to. But I'm going to sacrifice those things, and I'm going to choose this higher route. Why? Because I believe in the kingdom of heaven. I believe that there is a reward for the delayed, or there is a delayed gratification for that which I do. Many people who are not interested in the path will think you're foolish, and that's fine. I'm not that concerned with whether or not people think that what I'm doing is right or not. Now, human being, if people hate me and criticize me, yes, I feel it, and you probably will feel it too. But a real spiritual path is not about adulation from other people. It's a commitment of the soul to go, I want truth, and I will not rest until I have it. And when I find the fountain of truth, I will unpack my items and I will camp out there. And eventually I go, this is the fountain of truth. Now I will build a house here and I will reside here. And that's what I would like to encourage you to consider.